Greetings, Holy Ones. I am Fabian with ChristosAvatar.com, and today we'll be talking about the spiritual beings called Solar Rishi, and these Rishi are known as the Blue Flame, the Gold Flame, and the Violet Flame. We will also be talking about the Ascended Masters called the Grandeyanas, also about the creation of our hologram. Now, the three primal life fields we're also going to be talking about because it's part of the Solar Rishi, and also about our founder races and the universal Trinity. These are the things that we'll be talking about today in this video. Now, I have placed time codes in the video description below, so if you want to skip to like a different part, please do so. But for the rest of you, we will start at the beginning. So thank you for being here, and consider subscribing to this channel if you like what you hear and want to hear more about spiritual awakening, because that's what we talk about here on Christos Avatar. It is your spiritual ascension process. Now, we are getting into the Master Templar Ascension playlist series, deep into it. And in the previous videos, we already started talking about the different guardian angelic, races and the different nations that live within, the cosmic structures of our reality. So I've been breaking it all down to you. Now we're talking about the beings who live in the structures. And we just got through talking about the highest level, the Unisai, which is God. And I'll leave a link to the description of that video, which is the source of everything else, which exists in, that first sphere, the energy field or consciousness field, and beyond all of the other consciousness fields. Then we talk about how God individuated itself into the first smaller sphere of consciousness, called the Ecstatic Primal Sound Field, the first cause, the causal. And this is where the Melchizedek Ascended Masters exist. This is the first contraction, of God. Also in the original Anahazi language, these ecstatic level Melchizedek Ascended Masters are also referred to as Grandeyanas. So the words are interchangeable. So the Grandeyanas are the first, spherical sound field within which all the others take place. It is the unified group. So it is the primary consciousness collective. So all the, like what we're going to talk about, the preceding consciousness collectives, they work under the influence and direction of this first Grandeyanas Ascended Masters. So it is actually these Grandeyanas where the innerchristos teachings and information is coming from. Some of you may wonder, where are you getting all this information? The Grandeyanas Ascended Masters are the origins of the Law of One and of Ashiana Dean's Voyager's material, and basically everything attached to it, and anything that has the Azerite name on it, anything associated with this material is coming from this level. It is coming from the Grandeyanas level, and all the representatives they have, all the way down in space-time, the hologram, this is step down, you could say. They step down the information. They don't interact with our dimension, our 3D dimension reality really at all, that often directly, unless it's extremely important. The Grandeyanas don't interact directly and say, well, hello, we're the Grandeyanas, But usually that's the kind of like once upon a millennium, every few billion years, literally, that they'll actually make direct contact and, like give data. So they are, but, considering what's going on now, they're doing it now because it's a crisis intervention problem, that not only affects our system. So if our problems are creating problems for others, they will step in. So anyways, it is these Grandeyanas Ascended Masters who individuated into the next sound field, the sphere, called the Polaric Sound Field. And the Ascended Masters that exist at that level are called the Vachayanas. This is the second contraction of God. It is these Vachayanas who individuated again into the third sound field, sphere, called the Triadic sound field. And the Ascended Masters that exist at that third level are called the Ramayanas. This is the third contraction of God. So now we have three, contracted levels of Source God, and and they're in the form of sound fields, which are also, completely outside of our 15-dimensional time matrix hologram. These three primary sound fields of Ascended Masters, they're eternal collectives of consciousness, they're collectively considered our cosmic family, also known as ultra-terrestrials, that I've mentioned before. And they're beings that exist, outside of our time matrix hologram, outside of manifestation, or space-time, outside of, life and death that happens in the hologram, for they are eternal, and they perpetually exist. They never, leave from those cosmic sound fields. Now, each of these three Ascended Master collectives have, assisted in creating, countless time matrix holograms. This thing is a big, field, right? But they've created many of these. So, including our hologram, first creating all of the, holographic structures, They created the density universes, the dimensions, and energy body structures. And then the Ascended Masters, which is really God, continued to individuate itself, and it created, holographic suns and planets, stars, galaxies. These are all holograms. And it continued to individuate itself, and it created, holographic life forms to live on those holographic planets and stars and galaxies. These constructs are all Ascended Master thoughts that are projected into the hologram. They don't leave and go in the hologram, they project consciousness. Okay? All reality structures and beings are built out of the energy substance of consciousness. This is probably an advanced idea to think about, but this is something we all need to realize. And the externalization of our reality, the manifestation of matter, and the individuation of identity are all holographic projections of consciousness of the Ascended Masters, as they are comfortably in their cosmic sound field and interact with each other in the holographic reality fields. It is all in an intrinsic order of energetic relationships, which really represent interrelationships of consciousness, in its infinite manifest and demanifest forms. Okay, consciousness is energy, and energy is conscious. All right, reality is thought projection. Even the ultra micro particles that I've mentioned before, called particle, particle, and particum, they're the smallest units of energy substance, which are also the building blocks of morphogenetic fields, and matter and individuated type of consciousness identities, which operate also as minute perpetual motion fission fusion generators, okay, which group to form like grids and dimensional frequency bands, which further group on into what's called Kelon codes, which group to form a crystalline template of light spectra, sound frequency, and together electromagnetism. All of these things are the conscious thoughts of the Ascended Masters, creating our reality. They are the ultra microparticles. They are the galaxies. They are us, and we are them, and we are all at one-ment with God. This is one of the prime, concepts here in the Law of One, innerchristos. So, all right. So if you look at my time matrix diagram, you can see how the three Rishi collectives are representing the three primal light fields. These are fields of original light, first cause light, but they are also fields of consciousness, and also, the first entry point into our time matrix. Notice how you don't, start at the bottom of, the dimensions, like dimension 1. No, you start at the top. Okay, that's the top entry point. You come in from the Ascended Master level, and you start as a density 5 solar Rishi. Okay, you can utterly dismiss the concepts that humans came from apes or from pond scum. If you find yourself down here in density 1, it means you fell down. Okay, spiritually descended down. Okay, spiritually de-evolved. Or you were seeded down here by a higher dimensional race. So these, primal light fields, the three fields make up density universe 5, which includes, dimensions 15, 14, and 13. This level of matter density is called antimatter. Not antimatter, antimatter. And it's like a thermal plasma system with a gaseous silica orientation. So after the creation, process was complete, then the Ascended Masters collectives projected themselves, their consciousness, into, the three different primal light fields and, of our dimensional time matrix hologram. And as soon as the Ascended Masters projected down into the hologram, because their consciousness, it's all consciousness, they became another, contraction of God, a lesser version of themselves, okay? Anytime God individuates into a smaller space, it becomes a distortion, okay, of the original. So inside the hologram, these contracted Ascended Master collectives are called Rishi, okay? These Rishi are also called solar Rishi, or Meta-terrestrials, or the three founder races, and even the universal Trinity, or the universal family of consciousness. Now, my teacher, Ashiana Dean, she prefers to call them by the Anahazi word, okay, which is called Brenua. All right, so if you are learning from any of Ashiana's work, you will hear her refer to these Rishi as Brenua instead. And also she calls, the Ascended Masters as Yanas. Now, we have our own preferences, and that's okay. So anyways, realize that these Rishi are literally the Ascended Masters who came inside our dimensionalized hologram. And the solar Rishi are also, immortal and eternal at that level in the hologram. And so just like the Ascended Masters are in the energy matrix, they're immortal, okay? So outside the hologram, they are called Ascended Masters. Inside the hologram, they're called solar Rishi, okay? Understand? So the Ascended Master collectives are representing themselves in the hologram as the Rishi collectives. So this is how Source God has individuated itself into a dimensionalized hologram. So, as a review, first God's source projected a part of itself to become the cosmic, level ascended masters, collectives. And then the ascended masters projected a part of themselves to become the hologram, to become the Rishi identity. So then the Rishi will continue on from that point and create different extraterrestrial races in our universes and galaxies. And so this all goes down from starting from source down to Rishi or ascended masters to Rishi down on to us. So these solar Rishi fields exist as eternal gestalts of consciousness, in the form of light radiation. This is our color. This is our light. And these solar Rishi beings, are like suns. They are spherical. They are thermoplasmic, hot plasma. That's basically light in a hot gaseous state. It's before matter solidification. Rishi are scalar wave spectra that has like frequencies of a full sphere of energy. To visualize them, think of a sun and how that, gaseous light kind of moves off of it. Now, these Rishi suns come in different colors. The first and, the highest level is the blue flame. All right, it's called Elohei, Elohim of the 13th dimension actually, and they are the first light manifestation of source consciousness. They were seated by the Akkadic level Grandeyanas ascended masters. So the second middle level is the gold flame Seraphei, Seraphim, Rishi of the 14th dimension. That's where they're located. They are the second light manifestation of source consciousness. They were seated by the polaric level Wachianas ascended masters. Now the third smallest level is the violet flame. They're called Bra-ha-Rama, and they're the Rishi of the 15th dimension. They are the third light manifestation of source consciousness. They were seated by the triadic level Ramayanas ascended masters. So these solar Rishi are like the first beings to exist in this dimensionalized time matrix hologram that we exist in. So they're called the founder, like you would say, who founded us, who created us, the founders' races, which go on to create everything else. So it is their like a consciousness, literally, that is creating all life forms and races in this 15-dimensional system. Again, the consciousness of all life forms, such as a frog, a human, or an angel, are actually solar Rishi life forms in a dimensionalized version of its consciousness. For example, God's consciousness contracted itself into the cosmic ascended master. The cosmic ascended master contracts, that means the opposite of expand. It contracts in its consciousness into the density 5, like thermoplasmic solar Rishi, in the time matrix hologram. So went from here to there to now we're in a hologram. Then the Rishi contracts the consciousness into a density 4 hydroplasmic avatar. That's the level that the avatar's at. And then the avatar contracts its consciousness into the density 3 etheric oversoul. The oversoul contracts its consciousness into a semi-etheric soul, and the soul contracts its consciousness into a carbon-based incarnate human on planet Earth. Realize this is all really the consciousness of Source God. This is why and how there's actually only one being, which is, it's individualized itself basically through a progression of contractions, from the highest levels of creation all the way down to the lowest levels. All are one. Law of one, In regards to spiritual ascension, we're actually trying to reverse that path, and instead of contracting, our identity, farther away from God and becoming like smaller fragments, we are expanding in stages progressively upwards closer to God and becoming like, bigger vessels and collectives of God's consciousness. And all things and beings are thought forms within the mind of God. Always remember that, in the back of your mind. And this is really truly centered on law of one concept, that all are one. And we're starting to explain in detail how that happens. So the solar Rishi represent the original 3 fields of consciousness: the blue flame, gold flame, and violet flame. This original universal trinity of consciousness that we've all incarnated through in order to get here. And so if you can understand that when I talk about the solar Rishi, it's not some, other group out there in the great, beyond. It's not just some other group of ETs, or angelics or something like that. It's much larger than that. As you can see, the threefold founder flames are a huge consciousness field, at that highest level. They are always, there's always 3 Rishi, the 3 flames that form each time matrix, And we all are merged through them. So we have our own connection. We each have a Rishi level of identity. You are a Rishi, That's directly connected to the Ascended Masters, who is connected to Source. So the 3 Rishi orders of our time matrix are the universal families of consciousness, which incarnate into all the other well-created beings and life forms in our time matrix. Okay, so the fact that, well, we're here implies that we are connected to them. The fact that anything is here means it's connected to the solar Rishi. You don't get here without that connection. And the Rishi are directly connected to the Ascended Masters, and the Ascended Masters are connected to Source God. Okay, you have other belief systems that are going to teach you the opposite of that. That you're not part of this great unified at one minute. Okay, that's not the message you're receiving today. Okay, in that reverse direction regarding spiritual ascension, they are part of the expansions of energy and consciousness that get you back into that full at one minute with Source God, and they exist within Source, and we exist within them. Okay, we're like the small parts, the little small circles in the center of a bunch of those big circles. So today we have gone over the 3 Rishi collectives. The blue flame Rishi, called Elohei, Elohim. Okay, and we'll talk about that more detail. The gold flame Rishi, called Seraphei, Seraphim. And the violet flame, probably the one that most people are familiar with, are the Rishi called, Bra-ha-Rama. Okay, these are our 3 founder races. Now, I want to make a separate video for each of those, founder races, because they've done a lot on their own. So we're going to talk about each one, starting with the next video in the series. It will be about the blue flame Elohei, Elohim. That is the lineage that the angel, angelic human lineage came through. And in that video, we'll also discuss how the blue flame Elohei, Elohim are also the ones who created or seeded the Lyran, Siren Anuhazi, the Azurite blue angels, the Oraphim angels, as well as the Tyranesium angels of planet Tara. And there's a whole bunch, there's a whole progression of different types of forms that we came out of, through different race lines that build up into the smaller genetic, coding that is the human here. So our true lineage comes from the Emerald Order, well, blue flame, also Elohei Rishi. So you definitely want to click on that video, and so that's what we're going to be talking about. And this is expanding your consciousness, expanding your realization of who you are. Starseeds, Indigo Children, Holy Grail Lines. Thank you for joining this video, and I'll see you on the next video in the series. Namaste, Holy Ones. Machiwa.